Good morning, friends, wherever you are, and welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee. Thank you so much for stopping by on a Saturday. And I am using my old mic today. This is called a Yeti, while I do some fine-tuning using the app on my Boya mic that you heard me use last week. But welcome everybody. Let me see who's here today. Looks like we have a good group already jumping in with Denny. Denny leading the pack. Dennis Rudell, one of my wonderful moderators. Hello, Denny. I owe you a phone call. I noticed you called. I will give you a call back, I promise. Greg is in the house. Hope I'm getting this right. You are getting it right, Greg. And I welcome you to the stream. Scott's here. Hey, Scott. Missed the show last week. Well, I'm glad you're here now, and I hope you're able to catch the replay. After I took the 200 ads out of it that YouTube will drop into it, it uploads with 200 ads, and then I go in there and I clean them all out. So usually by the next morning. AJ dealing with an ick outbreak. I caught late body count this morning. 3 Geosaveni and 1 SAE, Siamese algae eater. I'm sorry to hear that, AJ. It can be it's normally not that deadly, but it can be if it's caught late or treated improperly. We'll be getting into some of that today for sure. Fisherman 356 in the house. Zach in the house. Z-Zip in the house. Hey, GP. Good to see you there, buddy. DSGF. Hanging around. Zach, anyone watching college football? Can you do both? Hey, Discus North. Check out Discus North on YouTube if you want to know all about Discus. He's got some beautiful stuff going on. Midi Mac. Good morning. Hey, Tracy, good to see you. I can't read this name because it's in a language I cannot read, but good morning to you with the 2 red hands waving at me. GP just did a deep cleaning. All right. That's always, it's always satisfying. And then you watch the tank closely for about 24 hours. Make sure you don't get a pneumonia spike. It's always a little scary, but not when you do it right, though. The Moneyless Maven. What a wild name. Hello, Shirley. Ross Dingle in the house. Ross, there's a town in Ireland, I think, named Dingle. Maybe your family's from there. Kim and Carl. Hey, Kim and Carl. Good to see you. Mr. Sophisticated in the house. More folks are jumping on. Sunder. Hey, Sunder. Good to see you. Kent A. JDK. Hello to you. And Greg R. And Get Tank. Yeah. Oh, that's Whip's World. Hey, Whip. I thought I was going to see you last night. I sat in on that members only thing with with Lisa and John, and I thought for sure you were going to stop by, but I didn't see you. Uncle Smiley is in the house. All right. Well, let's do the usual start here. Now, can I get an AV check? How's the AV, by the way? Can you hear me? Let me look for an AV check here. Make sure I'm just not talking with just my lips, my lips moving. AV, great. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you to all of you who answered. I appreciate that. Sometimes you wonder if people just see your lips moving but don't hear anything. And it has happened. All right. Let's do the official start. What do you say? All right. So some very, very quick, quick shout outs like I like to do on Saturday morning to those of you who are helping me out as Patreon members, members of the Garage Gang. Thank you so much for your weekly support. It's very, very helpful. Helps me do all the kind of crazy stuff I do in here. So, big shout out to my Patreons. Patreon information is in the description under the video. And a big shout out to a couple, I'll just do a couple today, a couple vendors that helped me out a lot. Northfin, Darius up in Canada, and Aquarium Co-op over in the beautiful state of Washington. Thank you to both of them for their backup and support of the channel. So let's see here. Did I miss? Oh, yeah, that's right. If you want to buy anything on Amazon, use this link. And when you do, whether you get something from my store or not, or just bounce out of my store and shop on Amazon, you will actually help the channel. It gives the channel a credit when you use this link to get to Amazon. For those of you that do this already, you are very, very appreciated. If you'd like to pick up some channel swag, there are t-shirts and hats and stuff available at my Teespring store, and this is the link. The link is in the description under the video, but you can pick up t-shirts like the one I have on, and hoodies and sweatshirts, and all that stuff really helps the channel a lot. And for those of you who have done that, thank you so much. All right, let's go commercial free. What do you say? A couple big comments here showing up on the chat. What's happening here? Angelo is watching Texas and the other team. Hey, Michael. Michael's in the house. We have a rant from our friend here whose name I can't read. I'm a novice fish hobbyist. I did not know that quarantining my newly bought rainbow fish is such a hassle. They are at the 2-week milestone. 1 more week to go. Some people would say go 4 weeks. But if he's looking healthy and bright and colorful and eating well and active, interacting with you, maybe 3 weeks are okay. Oh, Nick was there. Nick was at the live stream last night. Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fun. Justin up in Brownsville? Is that? No, Bowmanville, Canada. Wow, very cool. Cheers to you, Justin. All right, so what prompted today's conversation, and you'll recall some of this from last night, if you're on that members only live stream. There, I came across a video by a doctor, someone with a doctorate in the area of marine biology, aquatics, that kind of thing, and he was talking about disease, and one of his points was citing a lot of studies where fish were checked or dissected, or I don't know how they did the study in detail, but the bottom line was that 50%, very often 50% or more of the fish were carrying bacterias and other things that were capable of killing fish. And so his approach was there's really, it's going to be impossible to have an aquarium that is completely free of potentially harmful pathogens. And and really the only thing that we can do is actually take the best preventative measures. Now, it was more prominent in some circumstances than others, and in some countries more than others, and so, but overall, it seemed to be running at around 50%. So it would be a pretty safe to assume that this tank here, despite fish that look good and are relatively healthy and there's no apparent disease, that these fish are in fact carrying things right now that could actually blow up and be, devastating, certainly to the fish carrying it, but also to the tank mates. So the tips that were given are, one that one of you already alluded to was the concept of quarantine, but also getting to know the quarantine habits of your source of fish. Lisa Hudson made a comment last night that I feel was very, very, very good regarding the responsibility of ensuring that your fish are relatively clean, and how that responsibility increases if you're selling fish. So you get vendors that quarantine and vendors that don't quarantine. You get vendors that put fish through medicated quarantine, where they're actually using something like the Aquarium Co-op Trio, where they treat for ick and parasites and general bacterial infection. So you get these different approaches, but her viewpoint was that your responsibility, the effort that you put into it, should increase if you're going to be somebody who's going to be spreading these fish around into the fish community. So you get folks like Aquarium Co-op who pretty much shine in that area. Folks like perhaps Predatory Fins, Fritz over at Beantown, Cunningham Tropicals, right? These folks observe their fish for a while and put them through a variety of steps before they actually offer them to the public. They also gauge it based on where they get their fish, because the vendors also have their sources, and how much do they trust the conditions of their sources. So if you're getting fish from, let's say, the Far East or something, right, and they've gone through tremendous amount of stress through arduous travel and things of this nature, yeah, you probably do need to put them through a medicated protocol. You have a friend who breeds fish, and their tanks have been disease free for forever. You're probably safe running that fish through just an observation of several weeks, or maybe just even putting them directly in your tank. So you have to use your kind of like common sense and judgment on it. And when I do quarantine, I have them in there for about a month, and I don't medicate unless I see a need to medicate. And I have medicated. I had a quarantine about a month and a half ago that I ran them through an ick treatment. So, but if I don't see anything, if they look good, and like I said, good fin display, good color, active, interacting, eating, I don't run them through medication. I also feel that fish develop resistance and immunity just like humans, and you can get to a point where medications don't work anymore. Just the pathogens are just too strong. But definitely quarantine. Know your sources. Gauge your quarantine by what you know about your sources, but also gauge it by what you're observing in the fish before you add them to, a main show tank. So these are points that probably a lot of you are already familiar with, right? You're familiar with quarantine. Do we wink at it? Do we cheat? Do we fudge? Do we sometimes not do? Yeah. I think everybody has, I get one shipment in, I get another shipment in. I don't have the quarantine space. So, I've taken the shipment like from Beantown Aquatics or even from Cunningham Tropicals, from a vendor that I highly trust, and the fish look good. I've added them to my tank. I've added Beantown fish directly to my 300 and never had a problem. Under ideal circumstances, I'd have a 125-gallon quarantine tank where I could quarantine 5 or 6 big fish, but that wasn't the case when I got that last shipment, so they had to go right into the tank. And I trust that vendor, but you could be pretty sure I was watching those fish real close, and I had my fingers crossed. So, we all wink at this. One of the questions I asked in last night's live stream with KG Tropicals was about the recommendation that you have a net dedicated to each one of your tanks. Now, how often do you use a net? Maybe not that often. But you have a net, and in some cases, some people have a net, and they have hoses and water change setups that are for each tank. Now, that can certainly get a little crazy if you have like 25 or 30 tanks. So maybe a bucket with a little bit of fish safe, liquid, like a few drops of even, I think in this video that I watched, the fellow talked about using alcohol, that you could actually use alcohol in the buckets, and that it was not going to harm the fish necessarily. I thought that was kind of interesting. I would have thought that alcohol would have been very dangerous, but at any rate, so you have your nets in these buckets. If you have a lot of tanks, and if you only have a few tanks, maybe have one net and one siphon hose, and maybe even the food that you feed each tank on top of each tank, so that you're not necessarily getting your hands wet. Like when I feed my small fish, I might grind up the food a little bit between my fingers and then shake it around a little bit in the top of the tank so it goes down. Or in the case of like some of that magic floating food from Aquarium Co-op, it's like powder, but it stays suspended in the water a long time so the fish can get to it. But you wet your fingers and you wet your fingertip, you put it in the food and then stick your fingertip in the tank, and that dispenses the food. Well, that introduces the risk of cross-contamination. And cross-contamination is one way that you can have something just run all the way through your fish room and really mess things up. So any protocols you can take. Now, I don't have hoses for each of my tanks. I don't use, I have certain nets that I'll use for the bigger tanks, naturally, the bigger nets. But I do run scalding hot water over my nets after every use. And I run, because my hoses come from the tap, I run super hot water for a few minutes through the hose and over the part of the hose that could stick in the tank. I run like really hot water through it for several minutes for a couple of reasons. One, it makes it easier to roll the hose up, and also because it's going to help kill anything that's in there. So I do take some precautions. If I was importing fish from the Far East, I'd probably have even more extreme precautions. Now, are you doing anything currently? Are you doing anything that is extraordinary in your cross-contamination precautions? Do you have separate nets? Do you have hoses that are only for a particular tank? One person in the live stream last night said that they use gloves. They use what are called pond gloves that go all the way up to their armpit. And now, as long as your pond gloves are clean, I guess, but that was more to protect them, because another thing that came up in that video that was a little scary that I watched was that sometimes the bacteria that fish carry, if you have a small cut on your hand, a mosquito bite, a scratch, a hangnail that you've been chewing on, some kind of an opening, that the bacteria can get in there and create some problems, create some bad problems. And so they were talking about, again, real thorough hand washing before and after working in a tank, and definitely taking extra care if you have any cuts on your hands, because that could allow bacteria to get in. By the way, while I was rambling on here, I noticed a super chat. Did somebody hit me with a super chat? Let me see. I thought I saw a super chat. Oh, there it is. Greg hits me with a $10 super chat. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. Open for suggestions. I picked up a used 75-gallon tank, and it has hard water scaling all around the top. Any ideas how to safely clean it? I'm assuming this is a glass tank, because you'd use different procedures for glass versus acrylic. But anyone that wants to jump into that conversation, go ahead. And certainly there's a thing called, is it Barkeeper's Helper? Barkeeper or bar, comes in a silver, I think it's called Barkeepers. Doesn't scratch, and it's good. I mean, you rub it on there gently, and you can use like a fine filter pad, just rub it on there, and then just let it sit for a while, and then come back, and you can usually get most of the scaling off. If that doesn't work, you can also use a razor blade, and if it's glass, a razor blade should be okay. If you don't use a razor blade on acrylic, and be careful with what kind of pads you use on acrylic, because micro scratches will actually cloud up an acrylic tank. So, but yeah, find some of that Barkeepers. I think that'll help. And anybody else that has a tip for Greg, just go ahead and start your comment with, "Hey, Greg," and then go ahead and give him your tip. What do you say? Help him out. Thank you for that super chat, my friend. Kim and Carl, I keep separate cleaning items under each tank to avoid any cross-contamination. Also, the cleaning hose, I let it soak in boiling water. Yep. So you are taking some precautions. I think that's smart. Very smart. Now, I mean, there's some things that the thing that the thumbnail and that the video stressed that I watched was that the fish, they're all carrying the disease. They have disease, but they keep it in check, just like humans can carry, they're carriers of disease, and they don't get sick, but they have it in their system. I heard once that most people carry cancer, but they're able to keep it in check, and so that it never blows up, but they have the seeds of it. So what can you do? What are the precautions? Well, one of them is you can minimize the stress of your fish, because when they're under stress, their immune system will weaken, and whatever's lurking in their body will actually, blow up. How do you minimize stress? Clean water, water changes, giving them fresh water, good quality food, food that actually is bioavailable and gives them good nutrition to stay strong. This can maybe include probiotics, food with probiotics, food with real food in it. The word whole before, like whole tilapia and organic kelp and things like that are like wholesome and not a lot of fillers and not a lot of wheat products, right? A tremendous amount of soy or so things that can make the fish strong. Reducing stress, good water quality, good food, good tank mates, keeping pH right, being aware of pH. Don't shock with rapid pH shifts, which can happen by filling your tanks too fast, especially if you're a long time between water changes. The other one was that was discussed in the area of stress is like you're messing with the tank too much. Some of us we're just compulsive about it. We got to mess with it, and every time you mess with it, the fish are banging around and getting their heart rate up, right? So these are just some of the things. Other things you can do, you can keep UV lighting in your, as you can splice it into the hoses. You can have the kind like I have in the discus tank, which is sort of like an internal filter that runs the water past a UV light. That will help with the things that are floating by making them unable to duplicate themselves. But it's not going to do anything to what's already in the fish. But they will keep their diseases in check. They will manage their diseases and control them if you have them in the right circumstances and you minimize their stress. Just like a human will be less prone to disease if he's not in a life that's real emotionally volatile, right? Constant upsets and arguments and backstabbing and emotion and drama, you're eating right. You're not stuffing yourself with bad seed oils and junk food, and you're trying to eat as best you can, minimizing your sugar, maximizing your caffeine. Last part was a joke. But I mean, it's very similar, very, very similar. And don't let the seeds of these diseases actually come to fruition. Now, the other one that was very interesting to me was that this person was discussing how, because it's a tropical aquarium, we keep the temperatures up. And in my garage, I can't help but keep the temperatures up because the garage gets a little warm, and without the heaters running, my tanks stay around 80. And he was saying that the high temps are conducive to ideal conditions for these viruses and bacterias. So his suggestion was to run your tanks on the cool side. Now, this explains to me why one time I misdiagnosed ick, and I increased the temperature of the tank, and I lost almost the whole tank. It wasn't ick. It was something that looked like ick, but it wasn't. It was a little slimier. It was on the eye. Ick doesn't get on the eye. And I ended up, because what I did is I increased the ideal conditions for bacteria. And so his suggestion was run on the cool side if you can, and that you'll get less of these pathogens duplicating. Whip's World hits me with a $12 super chat. Hey, Whip, we drove down to Fort Still, Oklahoma to watch my grandson graduate boot camp and spend time with my kids. So no YouTube since Wednesday. Heading home now as I type. Well, what a cool trip. What a cool trip. I hope you had fun, Whip. It's so nice to watch family hit some type of milestone, or one of life's accomplishments. But thank you for that, Whip, and I'm glad you're here. And I am hoping you're not the one that's driving. So, Beto Great Lakes in the house. Ben, I was wondering if you could introduce something to your fish with blackworms, live foods of sorts. Um, I would probably be more inclined to introduce it by soaking the food in it, like in a pellet. I'd rather do it with a pellet. I'm not sure the blackworms are gonna. I mean, the advantage of something like a blackworm or a bloodworm or things like that is that usually fish can't resist them, so they are going to eat a lot of that. So they're going to be ingesting. So whatever you soak them in, they're going to go after it. But if you put medication in a pellet, soak a pellet, soak it quickly. You don't want the pellet to just turn into dust when it gets in the aquarium, because it's not going to help them at all. You want the pellet still firm, but just very quickly put the med in there in the liquid, drop the pellet in, then drop it into the tank quickly. Don't let it sit for a long time. And maybe add a drop or two of garlic guard, something that'll give it a garlicky, even though North Fin pellets already have garlic. And Darius is quick to point that out to me when I mentioned garlic guard before. I mean, he just looked at me and said, "Why? Why are you going to do that?" He was insulted that I would add something to North Fin that would. It already had garlic in it, so he was right. But anyway, ex Kali, I'm aware of your battle, my friend, and I do think about you often. You may not know that, but thoughts and prayers. Um, let's see here. Yeah, I see some people were jumping on you there, Whip, about driving. Did I say good morning to you, Anita? Anita Toke? I don't think I did. Well, Fly Guy, it sounds good in theory. Fly Guy is saying, what about we skip quarantine, just treat the whole tank for parasites? You do a parasite treatment per the recommendations on the medication of a 210 or a 300 gallon behind me, you're going to spend probably over $100 in medication to do it properly. And then after you're all done, you'll realize that you had left a activated carbon in the filter, and none of the medication got to the fish anyway. So no, you want to put the fish in a smaller quarantine tank and medicate them there if they need medication. I don't necessarily medicate unless I see a reason to before I introduce fish into an aquarium. Anita had the same comment. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. What it comes out to, like Paracleanse, Fritz Paracleanse, it comes out to like what, $3 a packet, and you need one packet per 30 packets per treatment for 7 days on a 300 daily. So that's 320. What is that? 210 packets. Oh. DSGF, lately, each time I do a plus or minus 40% water change, the biggest of my assorted cichlids dies. This has happened 3 or 4 times in a row. What? The first thing I would do, DSGF, is I would check my tap with a master test kit. You got something going on your tap. Either your tap has turned into a tremendously different pH from your aquarium. Maybe your water treatment plant is flushing with some powerful chemicals. Maybe the dosing, I mean, really, really carefully check the dosing. Be sure you're dosing for the entire volume of your tank. I don't know, man. That's heartbreaking. I imagine your temperature matching. The only thing I can think of is either the dose is off, the water conditioner is not working right. You got maybe a bad batch of water conditioner. I would definitely change something. I would do a tap test. I would use a different conditioner, because that's not supposed to happen. And 40% is not that big of a water change. I mean, if you told me I was doing 90% water changes and losing a fish, I'd go, yeah, that tank needs to get a little more mature, a little more seasoned. But that's heartbreaking. Check the tap. Try a different water conditioner. If you're using Prime, go to Fritz Complete. If you're using Fritz Complete, go to CChem Safe, and treat for the whole volume of the tank. Be real careful on temperature matching. Make sure nobody fires up the dishwasher or takes a shower while you're filling the tank. Check pH. Check tap pH compared to tank pH. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Yeah, come on over here, chocolate. Someone's commenting on my chocolate. I have 2 chocolates in here. Love these chocolate cichlids. I did a little video on them a while back, about a week ago. Come on over here, guys. Okay. So anyway, the upshot of today's topic really is just realize that the little ticking time bombs are in your fish, and the best thing we can do is take the best preventative steps. And something that was stressed again in the video that I watched was prevention is far, far superior and desirable than treatment. And anyone who's treated fish with disease knows that it's a hard road and is like a crapshoot. And very often results in the fish dying anyway, and you've wasted a lot of money on meds. So the focus has to be on prevention. Definitely discuss and check out the quarantine procedures of your fish provider and quarantine them in your fish room accordingly. If they just got an order in from Asia, from the Far East, from someplace far away, and they just came in, I've gone into shops where the person said, hey, I just got some great fish in. Take a look at them, see if you want to pick one up. I kind of balk a little bit. I go, well, why don't you observe them for a while? Now you risk losing the pick of the litter because there might be some showstoppers in there. So if you have a quarantine tank, you can say, okay, I know you haven't quarantined them, but I'll go ahead and take a risk, but I'm not going to put it into my main tank. So just things to keep in mind. Watching for cross-contamination. Perhaps lowering the temperature a little bit in the aquariums if you can, if you're not in a garage like I am. and really providing them with the highest quality food that fits your budget. Really give them the best clean food you can. He also found that there was a higher rate of contamination in some live and frozen foods. And he said that if you do use frozen foods, to use them sparingly, like maybe once every 2 weeks or once a week, give your fish a frozen treat. And if their immune system is strong, they should be okay. Now, something I have going on right now, you folks remember that big, I have a very big African cichlid that I had in quarantine and treated with an antibacterial because he had some skin lesions. And I put him back in the 300 and he looked really good, but now the skin lesions are starting to show up again. This is my Kawingi. I have a very big, beautiful Kawingi. And what's going on is as the fish becomes older, and this Kawingi is very old. I've had him for probably 4 years, and he was probably already 2 years old or 3 years when I got him because he was already big. So he's near the end of his life. And as the fish get older, again, like humans, their immune systems are not quite as robust as they were when they were younger. And so something that's been sitting inside of them all this time starts to, they were in a condition where they were keeping it in check, and now there's precipitation, right? So every fish has predisposition. The question is, does it go to precipitate? Does it actually, is that the right word? Am I using the right word? Does it actually come to the surface? In the case of the Kawingi, these things that he's been keeping in check for many years are now showing up on the surface of his body. So I'm probably going to have to pull him out again. I don't want him to get weak and become a target for the other cichlids, which is what cichlids do. When a fish becomes weak, they take them out. It's kind of a natural selection thing. I also don't want whatever it is that's growing on him to spread to other fish. Now, all the fish in that tank obviously are strong and have resistance because he's been in there with them the whole time, carrying whatever he's carrying, so they've been able to fight it off. But maybe if a piece of it broke off and some other fish took it in his mouth and spit it out, that would be enough to contaminate him with perhaps a stronger strain that he can't handle. So I'm going to have to pull him out, something I'm going to be doing after this live stream. I can see it from here, and it almost has a cancerous or tuberculosis, or not tuberculosis, but cancerous sort of look, or a cyst, like a cyst on the surface of his body. So he's going to be taken out, and I think this time he's going to be permanently put into a Shady Acres, what I call my Shady Acres aquarium, which is where fish go to spend the last few days of their lives, a few months in some cases. I don't euthanize fish. I don't put them down. I just let them fade out, and some of you might think that's cruel, especially if they stop swimming right, or they start to be in obvious discomfort. I just don't like euthanizing them. I mean, some people will put clove oil. Some people will put the fish in the freezer. I've heard all kinds of crazy. Some people will hit their fish against. I've heard all kinds of crazy things to take a fish out of misery. Not something I like to do. I don't know. Do you euthanize a fish that you think is suffering? Now, I've had dogs that have gotten very old and were obviously suffering, and I've had to put them down on several occasions. And man, talk about something being sad, but even when you know it's the right thing, it's still sad. So anyway, do you euthanize your fish? Just wondering. Ben.o. Great Lakes, adding the water slowly is recommended if it's been a long time between water changes and your tank pH and your tap pH may have shifted, or if you do a tap check, right? You take just take a little test strip, or use your master test kit, test your tap, test your tank, and if you've got a difference there in pH, it might be a good idea to do a slower filling up of the aquarium. That way your fish have a chance to sort of adapt. I think more than temperature shock, pH shock is going to probably kill your fish faster in a water change. Probably the only thing worse would be if you forget to condition. Yeah, that seems to be the consensus, Minimac, that live feeding, certainly getting like feeder fish from a fish store, like a PetSmart or a Petco or a pet supermarket. I mean, first of all, those fish don't look that healthy. They're in super overcrowded conditions, which was another thing that the person, that video I watched, talked about. He said, don't overcrowd your tanks. He also said, keep your filters maintained, because they can be a home to bad bacteria. I mean, here I am with a substrate that I never mess with that obviously has bacteria, but we have that balance between good bacteria and bad bacteria. And if you do something that's going to kill off bacteria in general, people have asked this before, like, well, wait a minute, if I hit my tank with general cure, am I killing my good bacteria? Maybe a little bit of it, but probably not enough to throw the tank out of cycle. But it's a balance, and there's a lot of moving parts, right? All right, let's take a look at if I missed another super chat. Thank you to those of you who have super chatted. Very, very appreciated. Whips World and Greg R. I'm just scrolling back here. But let me look through the chat, and if you have a particular question for me, start it with Ben.o chart. That way it'll jump out at me on the chat. Well, Kim and Carl, I think it was very merciful. It was very merciful when Walmart stopped selling fish. So Tiffany says that earthworms are not vectors for parasites. So let me see, are not vectors parasites. So I do feed live earthworms. Wow. Or insects from my chemical-free garden. Wow. Okay. Good to know. Check it out. I'll pin this message. I've got a particular food that drives my fish insane. I'll show it to you. Hold on. I'll let you do I'll let you peek at the fish here on a close-up while I get it. All right, so I have this right here is called Premium Earthworm Pellet, and it comes from Cunningham Tropicals, and the fish absolutely lose their minds when I use it. If you can see that. By the way, you can get this food at 15% off at Cunningham Tropicals by using ben.o.15. ben.o.15. You can get anything at Cunningham Tropicals, including fish, at 15% off. It doesn't apply to shipping, of course. Another fish catnip is this from Super Cichlids. This is their house brand of blackworms. From Super Cichlids, from Lisa and the gang out there, Lisa Martin. And it just, the fish go nuts. I mean, they eat all my food, and my day in, day out staple for the different tanks is the Cunningham flakes and the Northfin pellets. And the fish love that food. But there are some foods that drive them insane. And earthworm pellets, blackworms, and there's one other I'll show you. Aquarium Co-op freeze-dried brine shrimp. If you've got a fish that isn't eating, you put one of these cubes in there, and I almost guarantee you that they will start eating, because it's like irresistible. I don't know what's in it. I don't know if he's got garlic in it. A lot of protein. It's got brine shrimp, vitamin E supplement, a variety of amino acids and vitamins. Good stuff. Very good stuff. Earthworm pellet, the premium earthworm. Again, a lot of both of them have over 45% protein. High protein catfish meal. So if you see catfish meal, high protein catfish meal, dried earthworms, a little bit of gluten flour and soy to keep it together, and brewer's yeast. Anyway, those are the, if you have a fish that's not eating, try any one of those three. The other one is, I think it's called Cichlid Delight. I think it's made by Omega. Maybe Omega. Anyway, there's a frozen cube called Cichlid Delight, and it's loaded with good stuff, but also has garlic. I used to have a eye biter that wouldn't eat. Oh my goodness, he would fight for those cubes, and of course he'd put a whole cube in his mouth. He looked ridiculous. But anyway, just some of my food tips. All right, what else do you have to say? By the way, for those of you who've been following the channel, hey, Joy of Fish Keeping, did I say hi? For those of you that have been following the channel, all of my recent new acquisitions are doing well, and I'm going to do an update on it. The Starry Night had me a little scared because I couldn't find him, but he was inside of a cave. I took the caves out because I want to observe him, and I didn't want him hiding in a cave where I could never see him. So I took the caves out, and I might have been cruel because he likes the comfort of a cave, but I decided to pull it out so I could keep an eye on him. But he looks good. He looks good. He's active. Not eating as aggressively as I'd like him to be eating. So I'm still waiting for that. The two spot cheek cichlids are cute as a bug, about ½ inch each, and doing well, eating well. One is dominant, and the other one is subdominant, which is kind of interesting. The gudgeons and the gobies that I picked up, the Empire, the cockatoo, that beautiful blue gudgeon. They're all doing wonderful. The Empires are the best Empires I've ever had, and very active, very good eaters. And I'm going to love moving all those fish over to the 55-gallon planted and watching them grow and put on color. So I'll have the 2 apistos in there. They're both dwarf apistos. They're not going to get too big, so they're not going to eat my ember tetras. And the 2 Empires and the goby, that little night goby. Anyway, they're all doing well. I'll do a video. I'll do a walkthrough with an update on that, and you know what happened to my Empire gudgeons. The first batch I got, they had some sort of love suicide pact, and they both jumped out, and I found them both dried up on the floor, which was, I've never had that happen, where I had 2 brand new fish find a 1/4 inch gap in the lid and jump out. I mean, it was just so strange. Somebody said, well, were they being harassed? No, they were isolated. I mean, well, they were sharing the tank with the rasboras I'd picked up. Rasboras are not going to harass them. I mean, rasboras are as peaceful as can be. By the way, the rasboras are also doing phenomenal and looking great. So shout out to Aqua Imports, and to Imperial Tropicals for those. And I paid, those were not sponsored. Those were all paid for retail. And I spent more money than I wanted to, but I don't know, sometimes I lose my mind like that. And that's where my Patreons come in. They give me the ability to lose my mind. Oh. Big box stores. Justin's talking about big box stores, and I really wish that because of the reach that they have into the fish keeping community. I'm talking about your pet supermarket, your Petco, your places like that, PetSmart. And I've heard different arguments why this isn't the case, but I really wish that their protocols were better. And you would think that because of their impact into the fish keeping community, and the fact that very often new fish keepers kind of live and die based on their Petco or PetSmart experience, you would hope that they would have very strong quarantine procedures. They don't. That shipment comes in from Southeast Asia, where it goes right into the display tanks, and who knows what's being brought in. So I've talked directly with PetSmart and Petco. I've written to them after having had different experiences with their fish, and all I get back really is just boilerplate, just sort of something that was probably written by by some sort of Chat GPT or something. There was no real indication that any change was going to occur. And so anyway, just buyer beware. Kim and Coral, my plecos love zucchini and cucumber, but maybe you know this. or not. But here, I'll show you how I get them to eat it. Hold on. I'll show you my trick. Do you like that little break screen there with a little bit of music? Anyway, this is from if you've been around the fish world for a while, you know ZooMed. ZooMeds, I mean, they're a huge group, and this is an adjustable. You can adjust the length on it. It floats. This one is for this shorter one is for my 20-gallon quarantine tank. It's shorter, and it just floats, and you can clip on a slice of zucchini or a slice of cucumber, and it just sort of floats on there. And then you just pull the whole thing out after it gets really beaten up or eaten up, and I'll put it in there, and I'll come back an hour later, and it's got 6 or 7 little plecos hanging on it, and sometimes Cory cats munching on it. I mean, it's a great way to get them to go after it. And also keep in mind that those fish, your plecos in particular, they like to eat in the dark. So you can drop that in right before the lights go out, and that'll be a better way to do it. Heaven, we have a message from heaven, and I agree. It's all about the Benjamins, and you can apply that to so many areas of life right now. Any issues going on in society. I'm not going to get into anything like politics or anything, but usually you'll get the answer to what's really going on if you follow the money. That's whenever I look at anything now these days from any media source, follow the money. Who stands to gain? Even in the fish world, people that are that are scaring you sometimes about what's going to happen to your fish are usually selling a product, that'll prevent that. So, and whether that's legit or not, that's something eventually, a conclusion you'll have to come to. All right. So that being said, you folks have been a wonderful group today, cooperating, communicating with each other. I don't think a single comment has been deleted or removed by the moderators. Moderators are just sitting around, hanging around with no real heavy lifting. They didn't have to kick anybody to the curb. So thank you everybody for being decent, respectful, and in good communication with each other. Even the lurkers who don't comment, thank you so much for hanging out and being good people. I honestly think that, and I think my channel has the best subscribers and viewers on YouTube. That's just my opinion. All right. All that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you, moderators, for doing a wonderful job, even though you were not necessarily challenged too much today. And let me find this one screen here. There we go. All right. I will see you folks next week. There will be a live stream next week. And by the way, for those of you who are looking forward to seeing me in Chicago, I am not going to be appearing at the Greater Chicago Cichlid meeting in October. there was a conflict. The company that I work with, do a little side hustle with, of all the weekends in the year, they do their big conference in New Orleans the weekend of the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association meeting. So I'm going to have to be in New Orleans. I'm not going to be able to be in Chicago. So, but I have asked them to put me in the first quarter. So first quarter of 2026, I should be able to go up to the Greater Chicago Cichlid Association and give a talk up there. So anyway, sorry guys. I know some of you were looking forward to it, and I was looking forward to meeting you. So I'm just as frustrated, but hey, it is what it is. All right. Have a wonderful weekend, my friends. And I will see you next Saturday at the same time. Watch for upcoming videos. One of them is on the amazing jaw structure of cichlids. It's crazy. You'll like that video. I'll also do the fish room walkthrough and show you how the new little babies are doing. All right. Thank you, friends. I'll see you next week. You rock. Bye-bye.